I'm joined by William Ricigliano. He's a personal injury attorney who has offices in New York and soon to have an office here in Hudson County on Bergenline Avenue in West New York. And I wanted to talk to him about hit and run situations. First of all, Mr. Ricigliano, thank you for being with us on Hudson TV. I appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me, Jeff. It's good to see you.
Okay, so there are a couple of situations that we can talk about pertaining to hit and run accidents, mainly based upon whether or not the individuals involved have insurance or have sufficient insurance. Talk a little bit about that situation when you run into an issue where the offending vehicle doesn't have proper insurance. How does that get handled?
You talking about in a hit and run case or just in general?
No, in a hit and run case.
Okay. Well, first and foremost, I should mention that a hit and run is a crime, and usually will be investigated by the police as a crime. And hopefully, as they do that, they will find who the offending vehicle is, who the owner is, who the driver is. But of course, that doesn't always happen. Very often, if there's a hit and run accident, the client has no idea who is driving the vehicle. They can't identify the vehicle. And so whether the vehicle is identified through the police investigation or whether the vehicle is never identified because the client just simply can't do it, the problem for the client who's been injured in a hit and run accident is, what do we do about insurance coverage? If we never identify the vehicle, then there is no insurance coverage. And even if we find out who the vehicle or we obtain the identity of the vehicle, very often there's a minimal policy on the vehicle. And in that case, there's not sufficient insurance coverage for the client to be adequately compensated. When that happens, the client does have an avenue to pursue, and that is through the client's own underinsured or uninsured motorist provision of their own insurance policy. So if you own a vehicle and you have a policy of insurance on that vehicle, most of those insurance policies have what's called an underinsured or uninsured motorist provision in the policy. And what that allows you to do as a person who's been injured in an accident where there's no insurance coverage or not sufficient insurance coverage is you can pursue a claim through your own insurance policy. So if there's an amount of coverage on your policy that protects you when a vehicle is either not insured or underinsured, you can pursue a claim through your own insurance and be compensated that way. And that's often how we compensate clients whenever there's been a hit and run accident.
I should mention that you're a partner in the company that you started. It's RF Injury Law.
Yeah.
You've been doing this for upwards of about 25 years or so on the New York side of the Hudson River?
Since 1994, yeah.
Okay, so quite a long time. I was looking at your website prior to starting this interview, and it says that your firm's motto is trust the results. Mm-hmm. When we're talking about an issue involving a hit and run, how does that motto apply in that type of a situation?
Well, I think in any case we handle, there's two things that we want to be able to obtain for the client. The first thing is we want to obtain the client's trust. This is a tough business. I think that the strength of your representation of your lawyer is the comfort level that a client has. And very often we hear the client say, we trust the decisions you make, we trust your judgment. If you don't have that trust with the client, it makes representing the client very difficult. So regardless of the case, we're always trying to earn our client's trust. That way we can make decisions for the client, we can have communications with the client, and we know that the client is going to allow us to do our job because that trust factor is there. And in every case we work on, whether it's a hit and run or any other case, the ultimate goal is to obtain a good result for the client. And whatever that may be, if that's taking the case to trial, looking for other areas of insurance coverage if we have to, making sure that the client is adequately compensated, not just for their injuries today, but what they're going to face in the future. What we do in every case is strive to obtain that result that's going to make the client satisfied. Though when the clients come to us, it's never a good situation. They've been hurt, they're scared, they've probably never been through this process before, they're worried about taking care of their families. They're worried about whether or not they can return to work. And so all of this creates a great amount of anxiety. We're never going to necessarily bring them back to where they were before the accident, but what we strive to do is get them a result so that something good can come out of a really negative situation, sometimes the worst situation that they've ever faced. So we want to earn the client's trust, and we always want to work to get the best result possible for each and every one of our clients.
What happens in a situation, not necessarily involving a hit and run per se, but an automobile accident, where you sometimes have to get the individual municipality involved? How does that tie in?
So again, very often, well, the first thing that I generally will tend to do in a very serious collision is go to the scene. You can really tell a lot just by going to the scene. I've been doing this long enough that you can sometimes see that the roadway doesn't quite look right, or maybe there's a directional traffic light that's out, or there's a sign that's down. So you want to go to the scene to see if the municipality, the configuration, the engineering or design of the roadway had anything to do with the accident. Because again, the biggest problem that we have, or the biggest challenge we face in motor vehicle cases where clients have serious injuries, is where are we going to obtain insurance coverage? Where's the money going to be to adequately compensate the client? And very often, if you have a car that's not adequately insured, you can look to a municipality for additional coverage, whether that be a town, a county, a village, any municipality like that. So we'll visit the location of the collision and the crash. And then what we'll do is we will look to see whether or not there were any design defects or there was any notice to the municipality that the condition of the roadway was dangerous. And if it is, we will then bring the municipality into the case and argue that not only was the other vehicle responsible for the crash or the collision, but the town, the county, the village, they were also responsible for creating a dangerous condition because of the design or configuration of the roadway. And if we're able to establish that, we now have an additional avenue to pursue for compensation, because the towns, the counties are either very well insured or they have sufficient assets where they can pay a significant settlement or a significant verdict.
We've been talking solely about vehicular accidents, hit and runs, and situations that are not involving hit and runs. Does RF injury law deal with other types of cases involving catastrophic personal injury?
We do. We handle pretty much any case across the board that you can think of. My particular specialty is I represent clients who have traumatic brain injury or TBI, and they get those whole host of ways: slip and fall, construction accidents, motor vehicle accidents. So that's one of my specialties. My other specialty is construction litigation. So I represent a lot of construction workers who've been hurt on the job. They fall from a scaffold, a ladder, they trip and fall on the job. Many of these workers can't go back to work. So my particular specialty is in those two areas. But we also represent clients in nursing home abuse cases or neglect cases, slip and fall accidents, wrongful death. Really, we run the host or the gamut of personal injury type of cases. And if anyone's interested, you can certainly visit our website at www.rfinjurylaw.com to see all the different areas that we practice in terms of personal injury. But if there's somebody at fault and you've suffered an injury, likelihood is we'll be able to handle that case, but whether it's in New York or New Jersey.
One other quick thing, any percentage breakdown of how many of these types of cases wind up in court as opposed to settling out of court?
So that's a great question. And that's actually one of the most frequent questions I get from a new client. 95% of the cases that we handle result in a settlement. And settlements are good because it's a sure thing. Trials are always risky. You never know how a trial is going to go. You can prepare and you can do well. And we've had great success at trial, but it's always a risk. But 95% of these cases do settle. It's really important that if you've been hurt and you're going to choose or select a personal injury attorney, it's very important that the personal injury attorney that you select tries their own cases, which we do here. And the reason for that is if the case doesn't settle, you have to have an attorney who's tried and tested in the courtroom, who can take that case to trial and still get a verdict. And the other reason why you want to hire a trial attorney with proven results is the defendants and the insurance companies, they're aware of who tries cases, who doesn't try cases. And if they know that your lawyer tries cases and has gotten results at trial, they're more likely to pay you the fair market value of worth. And vice versa. If the insurance company or the defendant knows that your attorney does not try cases, they're going to be less likely to offer you what's fair in terms of a settlement. So, but by and large, about the vast majority of the cases do ultimately settle outside of court.
Okay. Mr. Ricigliano, I want to thank you for joining us. Give us your website one more time.
It's www.rfinjurylaw.com.
And you're hoping that the West New York office on Bergenline Avenue should be up sometime in March.
Yes, hopefully in mid-March. We've just had a lot of delays. As people know, the pandemic has put a lot of things on the back burner, but we're hoping that we're going to be opening in mid-March. And when we do, we're going to have a grand opening, and we'll let people know about that. And look forward to seeing everybody at the grand opening, whenever that may be.
Okay, well, Mr. Ricigliano, thank you for your time. Very informative. I learned a few things during the conversation. Thanks for being with us.
Okay, Jeff, my pleasure. Good to see you.